Hey everyone, welcome to Your Leadership Legacy. My name is Tina Paulus Krause, and today I have my beautiful daughter with me, Courtney. Hi, sweetheart. Hello. I'm in Florida. And normally when I do my podcast episodes, we do it via Zoom. And so it's really cool to be in person with you.
Real live action.
Real live action. Exactly. Exactly. We are prepping for our last 3 retreats here at the end of the year. And what was on our hearts today to come and share was really about what happens after the reset. Like, it's one thing when you come and you invest in yourself and spend the time and money to come and do a deep dive for 3 days into transformation, which is what we do here in Florida. But what happens after? And that's what we really want to talk about today, because life is life. Life happens, things happen. We go back into that crazy world that we came from, and we go in with new tools. And sometimes things still break down. So that's really what I wanted to talk with you about, Courtney, because a lot of the times when people leave, they clean up their life, they clean up relationships, they clean up all the stuff that gets to be cleaned up. And they really almost start on this like spiritual journey, which is what leads to you. So what I'd love to talk about today is that spiritual journey and what that looks like, because you've helped so many people go down that path and find their way and stuff like that. So talk to us as we kind of get started here. Talk to us about what happens after somebody leaves reset.
Yeah, the aftermath.
Yeah.
And we have become very intentional about that, I think, because we've seen people go back, into their lives, into their reality, into relationships, their homes, their professions, and it's still work. It's just not like boom, everything is, fine. There's an integration process.
Love that word.
So the path really, going towards a path, you get clarity here, but are you going to walk the walk? You can talk the talk, but are you going to walk the walk? So we have tools, and we continue to kind of build on those tools based on, who's here and what we go through, because everyone is very different, so it's very individualized, but we're all so much alike. And talking about that spiritual path. So really, we're all on a journey, together, individually. And so the tools, you and I have gone through a lot, a lifetime of stuff together. And so we know for us what works, what doesn't work. So we've gone through our own healing. We've gone through the dark. We've come into the light. And really shared that journey with people.
Yeah.
So, and that takes vulnerability. It's not always.
And time.
Yeah, it's not, I'm not the front center stage. If you need someone to do a speaking engagement, that is my mom, Tina. I like to do more behind the scenes. I love working with people and diving deep into their heart and what they truly want. I know even for us, a lot of our life, we just kind of put one foot in front of the other and did what our family thought we should be doing, or we just kind of people pleased, and we didn't really, until a few years ago, really dive deep into who we truly are and what we want to be and bring to this world. So when people see that, it's like a mirror effect. They really want that, or they see kind of the stuff we went through as a mother-daughter, and they want to go on to the other side of that true connection, not just faking it till you make it. They really want to dive deep. And I think that's when you talk about the spirituality of it.
Yeah.
Because we go through the emotions, we go through the mental, we go through the physical, but then what happens after that? So again, the integration process on this is really, we have a membership where we come together every week. We really integrate everything we're learning. We check in and we check out during the week. There's a lot of channeled content. So, you talk about a lot of it in the professional world, individual world, and we really kind of hone in together in a more spiritual way as well. So it's, again, that integration word keeps coming up for me.
Yeah, for sure. Bringing it all together. Because how many times do we have people go, oh, well, I want that relationship. I want that relationship. And that relationship for us did not happen overnight.
Did not.
There was a lot of dark nights of the soul and a lot of work.
Yeah.
We had to learn we got to learn how to communicate with each other. And that was really big. And so for us each to stand in our power, and then when we were integrating, it didn't always go awesome. You
It
know,
wasn't
I would try,
perfect.
yeah, I would try something new and like, oh, that didn't work. You know, you would try something new. Well, that didn't get through to her, kind of
Mhm.
a thing. And so coming to a retreat is awesome. Like going and self-developing and taking yourself on is amazing and it's great. But way too often, especially in the professional world, we, you know, go to a class, we go to a conference, we get a degree, we get a certificate, and think that that's like the end all be all.
Yeah.
And in those moments, what we've really done is learn the theory behind it. We haven't learned the embodiment, or as you say, the yeah, or as you say, the integration that like goes behind it. And so when you were talking, like what came up for me is there were times when we had to like just stop the world, like, no, we get to sit down and have this conversation.
Yeah.
And go through the conversation and just be real and true and vulnerable about where we were. Authentic, yeah. Because as a mom, and we've seen this in mothers and daughters that have come to the retreat, as a mom, I felt like I had to have it all together. I felt like I couldn't really
All the answers.
yeah, all the answers. I felt like I couldn't really reveal my true self or reveal what was really going on with me and my programming and all the things that I was trying to integrate into my life. Because I had to be strong, I had to be whatever, I had whatever story was behind it. But in those moments when I was able to go, hey, here's exactly where I'm at, and you were able to come to the table, and now we're both there, just real and raw.
Yeah.
That's where the true integration happened. That's where the true growth happened. That's where we walked away going, oh, that's what was missing.
Yeah.
All those other times.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. So, I mean, it was on my heart this morning to really talk about this because people will come to the retreat and really have this mindset when they leave, like they come in burnt out, they come in unclear, they come in, you know, with broken relationships, and we can turn all that around in 3 days in that deep dive. And then what comes next, right? Like what happens next, and how do I go out into the world and not get taken out again?
Yeah, and a lot of people feel alone, like they come here and they haven't been seen or heard
Yeah.
For a long time, if ever. And so the accountability of that, I feel like we really hold people when they're here, but then we really want to hold you through that process too, whether you receive it or not. You know, I feel like a lot of people, it's hard to receive that. And so the accountability piece is something I really want to bring to the table today, is that if that's within you, if you're ready to be held accountable, not everyone is. I wasn't for a long time until I held myself accountable,
Yeah.
but then you're not alone on that journey anymore. You know, you have support, you have people who understand, like-minded, and that we know what works. And maybe what works for us or worked for us is not going to work for you, but we understand and we can help formulate or be in that process with you. And it's not just, you know, again, everything's perfect. Things come up. And I think a lot, it's like the honeymoon phase, you know, when people just have this, you know, life is great and everything is going to be great. And then life happens, you know, our relationships, our family, work, career, you know, things happen. And so in those times, instead of just kind of going back into the old ways, you've paved a new way.
Yeah. And how do you stay in that new way?
Exactly. And then be hold yourself accountable, but then allow others to hold you accountable, and not in a judgment way. I think, you know, we've all have had friends or coworkers who say they're going to be there, say they hold space, and then they don't hold up to your expectations. And we don't have expectations.
No judgment.
We're working on that, you know, the judgments, exactly, and knowing that we're all where we're at. And if we can hold space and just come into that, you know, it's like a community. If we can come into that and hold each other and be there for each other, it kind of cracks through the surface, and your authentic self can kind of shine again. And it's not all rainbows and butterflies.
No.
You know, we are the storm, you know, we are the hurricanes, the volcanoes, you know, we erupt, we have all these emotions, you know, that we've worked through. But then again, when it comes up again in that new reality, it's like, what do you do? And I know you have so many tools, you know, for people. So there's a lot of free downloads. There's a lot of things, you know, to look at if you're not ready for the retreat, if you're not ready to spend 3 days in a container, you know, in an immersive where you're really receiving all those tools in real time and being given, I feel like even when we're feeding people, we're holding them for
Yeah.
3 days straight, and they take a day or so to really even receive, and then that receiving just feels so good.
Yeah.
And so going back into that reality, you can't be upset with people in your life who they're not used to you receiving, and they're not used to giving to you in the way you need to receive. And so it's that communication piece. And that's where you and I too, we were
Yeah.
on so many different pages and levels, and we would come together and be like, okay, well, I think we get this. And then we'd
we
be
don't
off
get
on
this.
our own journey. So we've really come to, understanding of we're all going through this. And you and I have kind of served as a divine example of we're still going through it. It's
yeah.
not, it didn't just poof one day.
Right.
It's not perfect. Life happens. We're still in the journey together.
Which is what relationship is.
Yeah.
Whether it's mother-daughter, whether it's partners, whether it's our family, our kids, whatever it is, it's relationship. And especially in today's world, it's so crazy out there. There's so many distractions and so much going on right now that if we don't have processes to clean and clear and come back to ourselves, you get stuck out there. And so you said two things that I really want to hit on. One is holding space and the other one is receiving.
Yeah.
So if you were to define what holding space means, because I think I say that a lot, and I can tell that not all the time does it land when I'm saying it. So let's talk about what holding space really means.
Yeah, and I know in the beginning we were gearing towards like that spirituality piece. If you can think of holding space emotionally, when someone's crying in front of you, instead of telling them to stop crying or
instead of fixing,
or fixing it, you can really just listen. You can be and just sit with them, and not say, hey, I got to go to a meeting, I got things to do. They matter, their emotions matter. Mentally, a lot of us are overwhelmed, and mentally we're hyped up. And if, holding space, it's, hey, like, let's breathe together. Let's just sit here together. Let's go on a walk together. It's finding a different way than just being in it with them. Or like when people gossip and then it's like, hey, you're just talking bad about people and they're not even in the room. You can say, hey, like, I know that I might have used to gossip with you and we felt good in that space, but they're not here, we shouldn't do that. And then you hold space for them to kind of have that awareness of, oh, that was a bad habit, an old toxic habit, but I'm not judging you for that right now.
Right.
We hold space. Spiritually, holding space too is when you can't mentally understand it, when you can't emotionally understand it, or when it physically doesn't make sense. There's something even bigger, energy. There's something like when you say an elephant in the room,
Sure.
So it's having the capacity to hold that space with, we've done it for multiple people. We've done it for individuals, but it's sitting there and just being, listening instead of trying to, you say, fix it or trying to like think of the next thing you're going to say or what you're going to do. It's just receiving them and letting it be, letting it kind of dissolve or letting the better outcome, like the best outcome, come to you instead of just ripping and tearing. So
the fixing is what resonates with me because that was my MO, right? As a leader in work, as a mom at home, as a partner. I always had this ego that said, oh, it's your job to fix. And it's not my job to fix. It's my job to hold the space and ask the right questions.
And just to listen sometimes.
And to listen. Listen to understand, not listen to respond.
Exactly.
And that's how, like, those are all the things that you and I went through. And, as we were going through it or on the tail end of it, you realize, oh, those are the lessons that we get to learn in order to create the relationships and the results in life that we really want to create.
Yeah.
And so a lot of it is just, even holding space for yourself.
Yeah.
Like, when's the last time you held space for yourself? When's the last time that you just went, you know what, I'm not okay right now. So I get to just take some time and slow down and connect in with my higher self, connect in with spirit, however you want to, whatever you want to, call it. But we don't allow ourselves that kind of time and space, which is why we've created this retreat center in this beautiful, space that you have to be able to bring people in and hold that space for them.
Yeah.
And so the receiving part, because we get to go to the receiving part next. And you've taught, she has taught me so many lessons. I'm here today because of her. For real. But the receiving piece, I think as we grow up, I know for me, as I grew up and went into my career and went into leadership and all that kind of stuff, it was my job as a leader to do, it was my job as a leader to create the decisions and do like I had all these stories in my head and I didn't know how to receive. And so, there's, and it's our ego that's not allowing us to receive. And so how would you define receiving and how that's changed our relationship?
Yeah.
Because I finally get what that looks like and what that means.
It was a huge shift and it didn't feel right. It was hard at first because it was almost like how bizarre is it that receiving is one of the hardest things to learn and do, but you've spent so long not knowing how. So to me, the definition of receiving is to kind of, it's not letting down your walls or your guard, but in a way, it's like, checking your ego, check yourself before you wreck yourself, checking, making sure like, why am I not receiving? Like what's coming up for me that I can't receive right now? It's like when you're a giver, like it feels good to give. That's a love language. That's something to do. So for when you and when you wouldn't receive, or when I grew up, and I wanted to be the giver to you. You had given everything I ever needed. You always had, but when it was time for you to receive, it was almost like smaller things at first, like let me pay for the meal instead of you always paying for the meal. Let me make you a meal, and just take care of you, because we always, think these roles, we always grow up in these programs and these roles, and we learn from our ancestors, our elders, however you want to say, and we just think that's how it's going to be, and so you would get mad.
I would.
You would get upset, and it was resisting.
Like it was my job. Like it's my job as your mom.
It's resistance. And so I know we've talked about energy exchange before. That's a huge thing in relationships is, the giving and receiving. You can't just be one way. And so for us, it was, for you to kind of see who I was, as an adult, if you will, as a grown up, whatever that is. It was something where we could really give and receive to each other, but it wasn't always money or meals, it was energy, it was time, it was space, quality time, where before you would want to hang out or do things together, and it wasn't the things that I really liked to do, but we would do it because we had time together. And then we started doing things that we both found connected us, together. And for a while it didn't work, but you finally, there was like something that like clicked. It was like, wait, like
it was my own evolution.
You're able to receive, and then it felt good to you.
Totally.
And then it was like, just when people come here and they haven't had a meal made for them,
it's true,
at maybe ever, but in a long time, and they get to receive, and they're like, well, this feels great, it feels good to receive. And it's like a valve, it opens up, and it opens up your mind, it opens up your heart, and you're able to kind of learn how to do that. And it's a tool in and of itself. But when you're trying to tell somebody that they're having a hard time receiving and they deny it or resist it, you kind of just have to, it's like little things, just putting like a gift or an offering, in front of them. Like, this is my love language,
And that's what supported me with you, like starting to understand what your love language was, which is quality time, and my love language is words of affirmation. And so when we started to understand that about each other, we could really start moving in a different direction. But the receiving thing, it's a gift to both people. And that's what I wasn't understanding. Like when I allow you to, when I receive, when you're giving me something, I now know what a gift it is to you as well as it is to me. And so for me, it was about being open-minded versus closed-minded. When I was closed and ego's running the show, like it's my job, I'm your mom, there's no question, I'm directing, I'm being that like old school leader that I had always known and that my programming was. So what you did for me was you opened up that whole piece of, no, mom, we get to walk side by side. Like, I'm gonna get emotional about it. Like, we get to walk side by side. And that's the greatest gift for a mom, right? Is to finally like hear that and be that. And what we've been able to build from that since is really incredible. But it took me opening up
Yeah.
So when people, are drawn to our mother-daughter retreats, a lot of the times it's the mom calling, going, I'm having issues with my daughter. I need you to fix her. I mean, those are my words, not theirs, right? But like, and it really starts with you, mom. That's what I'm going to say. It starts with you because it's been your way since day one. It was my way since day one. And you got to a point, especially in your recovery, right? Like you got to a point where it was like, no, this relationship gets to change. And if I don't change, it's never going to be what I knew it could be.
Yeah.
Right. And so it starts with us just opening up to really starting to understand who you were. Like I started listening in a different way.
Yeah.
And it changed everything.
Yeah, it's a shift.
Mhm.
And that shift, it feels good. It's hard. And I noticed too, individually, we've gone through it, so we know the signs, we know the signals, and can kind of see that in others, as a mirror, if you will.
Yeah.
And so if you're talking about, the mother, the child, just that parental figure and the child, individually, they're going through things, just like you and I were individually going through our own
Absolutely.
journey. We're going through our own stuff in life. And then when you bring that together, and you're in your reality, it's kind of like your norm, but here it's kind of neutral ground. You get to receive, you get to kind of see yourself in a different way. And then with your coaching, I'm not saying you're challenging them, but in a way it's like you're holding yourself accountable when you come into the space, because we're not on vacation together. We're not fun, you end up having fun, but it's in a way that you're challenging your belief systems, your patterns that haven't been working,
Right.
generation after generation. Most of the time people are like, wow, my sister needs this, or my mom needs this, my grandma needs this. They see it when they make that shift, whether it's day 2, day 3, they see the shift and they're like, I know more people that need this, because they've been in it with everyone else.
Right.
In their reality, and they come here and they see the different ways and paths that you can be and you can live, but you have to do the work.
You have to do the work. Absolutely. It's why we created this whole retreat center, right? I mean, we did the work, and it doesn't mean that it's all perfect now. It doesn't mean that we're at the end gate, because it's an everyday kind of a thing. Relationship with anything is. And, until we opened up to making a change and started getting clear on what our visions were individually and collectively, we were never going to get to where it was that we really wanted to get.
We would have lived another decade, 2 decades, being in the same spot.
Yeah. We just would have repeated it, right? And so that's why we created the reset retreat, so that it allows somebody to come out of that programming, you don't have to fix everything, come out of everything's not on you. Because that's where I was trying to fix everyone and everything instead of me.
It's an inside job.
And it's an inside job. It's the inner work, it's the shadows, it's the blind spots, it's all of that. So I think all of this for me to say that, life is a choice, suffering is a choice, inner work is a choice, it's a choice. And so if things in your life, things in your business, things in your relationships aren't working, just like take a minute and pause and do some introspection. And maybe start to turn that mirror around and say, why aren't they working? Oh yeah, I'm closed off to this. Oh yeah, I'm closed off to that. And having those difficult conversations are the way through.
Yes.
They're really the way through.
Self-development, it feels good. It really comes to a point where you're in the dark, you're, sitting in it, the victim, the life is hard, life sucks, you're in that, and you get stuck in that, it's like depression or just this deep, dark space. And instead of expecting someone to come save you, you get to step into the light and the self-development. And I'm not going to lie, sometimes it takes time, or a lot of time, or maybe some people will never do that in your family. That's why with you and I, we get a lot of grief from our family, especially in the beginning, because we were trying something new and they liked the old. They were more comfortable, with the old parts of us and the people that we were, but we didn't like who we were. And we had to face ourselves in the mirror, and she does mirror work. I felt so uncomfortable. I didn't want to look at myself in the mirror and see the challenges that I needed to go through, the hoops and everything, or the loops that I just kept going in. In my head, I had it all figured out and life was fine.
Right.
You know, I had a plan, and, you know, I remember you just being so, not strict, but just to the point of like, no, you don't got it.
Right.
Like, you know, we trusted each other to a point where like, no, we get to create a plan.
Mm-hmm.
And our plan, it worked. And you saved my life.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I could have died from what I was doing in the darkness and the just what I was doing to my body and my mind. And so we came out of that, and, you know, 10, 15 years later, we're able to be in a whole new light. And again, we see people and they're doing drugs and alcohol, or they're eating, you know, their emotions and feelings, or they're not facing relationships, that things that they should have faced before. And you and I can honor that and see that in people and
And
hold
not judge it.
space and
Yeah.
not judge it. But we're not going to hide from you. We're not going to push it on under the rug. We're not going to just turn a blind eye. You know, we get to call each other forward, and, you know, maybe people won't receive that, or we've had people come back years later and finally, you know, admit like, I was really upset with you for calling, you know, me forward, you know, because they thought we were judging them, and it's not. You know, it's because of the journey we walk, and we have a purpose.
Yeah.
You know, we have a mission to really assist people in stepping into, you know, receiving and holding space for people to figure it out and find the clarity, you know, just as we did.
Right.
And again, we keep evolving. There's this evolution
So
that's
true.
happening, and our world is evolving. And so we really get to, you know, step in. I'm really looking forward to the next couple of years where, you know, we're doing the retreats and doing the work, but people are shifting. And there's some powerful people. I mean, if you're listening to this and you've been here, you know who you are.
Yeah.
You know, you're powerful. You've done the work, and don't give up.
Yeah.
Don't give up.
Yeah. I think back to all the times when, I'm going to go and be in solitude for 4 weeks, and I'd get mad because I didn't understand it. Or you talk about the energy exchange and I'd be mad because I'm like, what do you mean I gave birth to you? Right.
Yeah.
And we laugh about it now, but it was the hard work that we got to go through. And, we both individually and collectively have had stuff in our life. And I think there's a saying out there, hurt people, transform people, transform people. And we've done the hard work to get to where it is that we wanted to be from a relationship standpoint. And the sole reason why I don't want to speak for you, but the sole reason why I do the work that I do is because if I would have had these tools, like, wow, I think about you guys growing up, right?
Yeah.
Like, if I would have had these tools, again, I'm going to get emotional about it, but when you were little, like, life would have been much different. And it wasn't our path. And I get that and I accept it. And so I want the world to have the tools to control and to manage their nervous system, because that's, at the end of the day, that's what it was for me.
Yeah.
All the pressure, all the stuff that happened, my nervous system was a hot mess for the first 50 years of my life, and I didn't know how to manage it. And so knowing how to manage that, it just changes everything. But we don't talk about it. You don't learn this stuff in school, which is exactly what we should be learning in school. And so that's why I do what I do. Why do you do what you do?
I think it's the change too. When you're speaking to that, it's like the change. People, I notice a lot of people aren't ready to change, and that's okay. But for so long, it hurt me. I'm like, why don't you want to be a better version of yourself? Why don't you want to, improve yourself? And so for me, we had to have our trauma that happened to us and everything so that we could be who we are today. And
Unapologetically.
Vulnerably.
Yeah.
And we're setting example. We're a divine example of what can be. And I think a lot of people just think it's hard or it's too much work, but you get to know you're worth it.
Yeah. You
get to know you're worth it and that we can do this. You can do this. It just, you have to walk the walk. You have to have the tools, and there's so many tools out there. So if if you resonate with us, if you resonate with, a retreat center where we're really going to give to you and hold that space, come through, step through. I call them the gates, to higher consciousness. It's time to be conscious of our decisions, and stop blaming others for the things that are happening in our life, and make a change. Because that's really what it's about, is being conscious. And I think that before, I wasn't conscious. I didn't even know the world could be as conscious as it is. And so knowing, that we get to kind of clean up our act and find ways and spaces. We've all been let down before. We've all had expectations and, been let down. But this space, we really ask you before you come, we ask for your intentions. We ask kind of what's going on. You do implementation afterwards. So there's still coaching afterwards. We don't just, let you loose.
Right.
You get to really continue that work and bring it in. And I know for you, you have a big heart and you connect with people. And so a lot of people, they just kind of, thanks, and they're on their way. But if you can really open up your heart and know that there is support, there is a coach, you've been a mother, you've been in corporate America, you've done the personal work. We're not just poo-pooing you. We're not just, making things up here. Like, this is from our heart. This is our soul.
Intentionally and purposefully.
Yeah.
Like, that's the thing,
Yes,
right?
our soul work.
Yeah.
And we know that this is our purpose.
Mhm.
And so we'll continue to do this. We continue to grow and evolve. And I know a lot of people that have come here, we don't just stay stagnant. We don't stay the same. Every time is going to be different, or you're
Really
going
is.
to experience what you came here to experience, whether you were aware of that or not. So again, I kind of want to just hit on the point of, like, individually, because we do offer, the individual reset retreats where you come in and you do your work. We also have been doing generational healing, to where, as a mother and a child, you can really come in and reconnect, and all ages. There's no age, there's no gender. Just because we're saying mother-daughter doesn't mean that,
True story.
it has to be the feminine. It's who you are and what you're looking for. And again, sometimes the child doesn't always know that they can step up and have the relationship. It took me a while to understand, like, when we have, life to live.
Yeah.
So there's always more experiences. And do you want your experience to be the old patterns and the old beliefs and the old ways, or not talking to each other? How many people out there just don't even talk to each other?
Yeah. I mean, we got one life. We're here. That may not be completely true, but we're here. And I just knew that there got to be a certain point when I was like, no, this isn't what I like. No, this isn't. No, I wanted more. There's got to be more. There's got to be more. And again, it's why we've created this, so that we can. I didn't have that. I mean, until I was 50 years old, I didn't understand that people could hold me high. Like, I thought I had to do it on my own. I thought it was up to me. Like, the weight and the pressure, and I know people that are listening to that feel that, because every single person that comes here, we start with receiving. You get to open up, like, let's let it all go before you even walk in these doors.
The lone wolves.
The lone wolves, yeah. Like,
we see
the lone wolves. And when I got into a program where there was a transformation coach that was asking me deep questions, and then I was like scared to say what was really on my mind and where I really was, because I didn't want to be judged, and I was trying to people please, and I didn't want to look stupid and all this kind of stuff. But when I just let go of all that and I just said, here's where I'm at. Like, I don't have a relationship with my daughter, and honestly, she's in rehab right now and I don't know where to go. Like, whoo, everything opens up, because it's somebody that's going to hold me no matter what. I can be on the floor. And as a coach, like, that's expected. It's expected, and to have somebody just hold you in that and go, okay, how are we going to get from here to here? Where do you want to go? What do you really want?
Exactly.
Like, what do you really want? And when I said, I really want this relationship with my kids, okay, great. Let's go in that direction. What's missing from that? And then somebody should really hold my hand as I was going through that dark stuff and that inner work. It made a huge difference. And so that's that's what we do here,
Mhm.
is no matter where you're at. I mean, I don't know that there's anything that anybody could say coming in these doors that would like surprise us, you know,
Mhm.
because we've been through it, or we've seen people that have been through it. And I know how much abuse is out there. I know how much sexual abuse is out there. I know how much trauma is out there. We know that based on the work that we do. And the whole purpose is that you don't have to be alone anymore, because we've got the structure, we've got the programs, we've got your hand, like we've got your hand, because we had each other's hand.
Exactly.
To walk
And it
through it.
started with us. It starts
Yeah.
with you.
Yeah,
It starts with you going through the gates. I'm gonna keep saying that.
Yeah.
And, stepping in and wanting it, truly wanting it.
Yeah.
Because I think for a while I was lying to myself, again, everything's fine. Someday it'll be better.
Yeah.
But until I took myself on, until I really knew that it was a problem, then we kind of stepped into a whole new world. And again, it takes years, it takes decades sometimes, and it's a ripple effect.
Mhm.
It's a ripple effect. So I know a lot of people that have seen our story or been with us, for decades. They've seen different versions of us,
Yeah. And some still hold us in the old versions.
yeah, we get to be
You know?
present with each other
Yeah.
and presence here. A lot of the times we ask people to put their phones away, don't even need the phone, and you get to just be and sleep well,
Mhm.
get a good night's rest, and just again receive. We're gonna keep saying it, receive, because there's still some blocks, I think, of people doing that and knowing that that's again our love language. We want to give to you. We know how important it is for you to receive. And at the end of the day, when you leave and you're glowing, you feel better, you're doing better, it's because you're receiving. And it's just that little shift.
Yeah. What I see a lot of the times is the reason people don't step in is because they're back here talking about excuses or all the reasons why not, or I have to have all the answers. No, you don't have to have any answer. You don't. Stepping in to your own inner work, you don't have to have any of the answers. You get to say, I'm stepping in and I'm open, and trust the right people, us or whoever you choose to trust the right people to give you the process, to give you the right questions at the right time, to lead you through where it is that you want to go. Because I don't have, somebody walks in, all I know is what process we're going to run through and how to ask the right questions at the right time. I don't have your answers.
Yeah.
You've got your answers,
Yeah.
but I can
always have the answers.
Yeah,
you
yeah, exactly. But we can get you there, right? Like we can get you there. And so if you're out there and you're like, well, trying to figure out an answer or trying to, have the time or money excuses and all that kind of stuff, know that that's, you're ready. You're ready. And it just takes okay, I'm ready and I'm stepping in, that one choice to step in and then surrender.
Yeah. And what comes up for me is I can see people needing baby steps. We're all different. When you talk about operating systems,
Right.
we're all different. We operate differently. And some of us need more pinpoints, or like, what does it look like, and take those baby steps. And with you, I commend you for this, is you took the leap. In so many ways, it was for you. What worked for you is to just dive in, to head first kind of a thing. Like you just went in and it worked. And what happens is that, again, the ripple effect is that then you give the future generations, for me, and even with my children, they'll be able to, see how we handle things in life. And it might not make sense to them in that moment, but when they come of age or to that age, they can handle a situation differently.
Right.
Relationships, or even vacations. You can spend all your money. What you're saying, people can go out and buy junk food, but you're not saving up. Maybe it's little by little you're saving up, and you have a goal of next year or in 2027 to go for 3 days and have that 3 days of retreat. It's different for all of us, but I think it's having the understanding that we understand. We're not judging you, but we want to support. We get to support you in whatever that looks like. And you get to be open and honest about what you need.
Right.
And when you need it.
Right, for sure. I think we should do these in person more often.
Yeah.
I like it in person.
Just put a little line.
It's like we're still kind of on Zoom. You just draw a line down here. All right. So, I don't know. How do you want to end this thing?
It was great to spend time with you guys. And, I hope that you stayed till the end.
Yeah.
And we'll be back, we'll have more to say. If you have any questions, maybe comment if there's anything specific you'd like us to speak on or speak to. If you want to connect individually, you can leave that for people, how they can connect with you. I feel like some of it's very private. We really hold people to their privacy. So if there's things that you don't want us to share, we're not going to share it, and we can assist and support you, on the back end.
Yes, yes, yes. I want you to talk about your membership, and
Yeah.
let me preface it. So, yes, I did the work. Yes, I took the leap in all these kinds of ways and whatnot. There's always a next level. There's always a deeper level. And where you support me to this day is the spiritual side of things. It's one thing, you call it the ground game.
Mm-hmm.
It's one thing to be on the ground game and go through transformation and take on yourself and the inner work, but there gets, and there gets to be a moment in that transformation where you really start asking questions, asking higher level questions, making the quantum stuff, right? Making that leap and starting to understand, how do I connect up and connect in, and what does that look like? And Courtney came out. I know a lot of people know this, but Courtney came out of rehab and, became this like really powerful spiritual healer. And I didn't understand it at first. I was like, what's happening? What's going on? And she had, it had been a whole lifelong kind of a journey where I poo-pooed it her whole life and all of that. And, whew, and today, like, to watch her in her power, to watch her supporting people from a spiritual perspective is really, really special. And part of her membership is these weekly check-ins and check-outs, and they support me every week to stay centered and to stay on track and all that kind of thing. So I want you to talk a little bit about your membership and what that looks like and what it'll actually do for people.
Yeah, and just to kind of give you, our organization is Crystal Clear Missions. And so it's in our mission to really hold space and hold ourselves accountable in that. And so the membership is really a place where all of your, donations to that goes back to our retreats, goes back to the land, what we're doing here, our evolution, and to bring you the experience. And so the membership for me is, I've been doing that, 3-4 years every single week. It's my devotion, my dedication to my soul work. And so, coming into that, we have Monday check-ins, Friday check-outs, and it really allows us to hold each other accountable in our life and what's going on, physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually.
Mm-hmm.
So, no matter what level you're at, it's a community, and we don't just talk about mundane things. It goes deep. It goes into a spiritual level of, what is your soul mission? What is your soul purpose? What signs are coming up for you? What's coming up? A lot of us are having experiences, we could say paranormal. We're having these spiritual experiences. We're feeling the energy. We're feeling all the things, but we don't have context for that.
Yeah.
And when you're developing, there's emotional, mental development, physical development, but there's also spiritual development. And we're living in kind of a new age era where a lot of it's kind of foo-foo, a lot of it woo, as they say, the woo-woo, and it's not grounded. And so, I take great pride in knowing that what you say, ground stuff. Yes, it's about your job, your relationships, but it's about your soul purpose, and where you're supposed to be in life. So we hold that. We have consciousness classes, different levels to the membership depending on where you're at, and what you want to receive or what you get to receive. And a lot of it is channeled content. So you can see us speaking here, as mother, daughter, Courtney, Tina, you can see us, but this is something where I really go into my spirit. Right. And I connect with source. And I've always been able to do that since I was a child. I just haven't been able to communicate that, or maybe, didn't understand how to do that. And so
nor did her mother understand it. Yeah.
I've honed in on my skills. I've gone to school for years now. I've channeled. Went to the Hamptons and did solitude, where I was channeling 24/7, 365 days, a year, and it was intense. And so I've kind of come back to the ground. We've opened this space here in Florida so that I can do my work, my soul work. And I really bring people into that space, and it's about the collective. And it's amazing what, things come up. And I leave it up to your imagination right now, because I know you can feel it. I know you can, see it. But you get to really step into that, and it's growing. But I don't, lead people to that. I really allow people to be called to it. So, the work and the spiritual work, when it's time, you'll know it's time.
For
And
sure.
with our work, and, we'll have my wife on our next podcast and our lives, and, what we do together and collectively, and us three, in the retreats and our work together, you get the whole package, the mind, body, and spirit. So, experience it. It's really an experience.
Yeah.
You can't really talk too much about it, because there's a lot, to it. So it's really something to experience and to sit with and be
Yeah.
with.
What I hear you saying is, and based on kind of where we've gone with the conversation, somebody might be ready to jump into a 3-day VIP immersive experience, or maybe they just need a weekly check-in and check out, or a free guide, or whatever it is. So again, it's really about where you're at, what you need in this moment. And it's taken a while for us to get that framework set up, but we literally have a program, or something for wherever people are at in their journey.
Yeah.
And it's, again, purposeful and intentional, to support you,
Yeah,
to support
virtual,
you. Yeah.
in person. We're going through a lot. Everyone's going through their own stuff. So, it's the virtual stuff, even here where you're sitting and watching,
Except we're together.
listening. Yeah. And even this week we're gonna be in front of a lot of people, telling our story. And I think we're ready for that. We're ready to come into the public sector a little bit more, where we've been really private, in our own kind of sharing that and developing what we want to bring to the world. And watch out.
It feels good.
We're ready. We're here, and
We're ready, and we're calling you in because we
Yeah.
see you. We
Mhm.
really see you.
Yeah,
So.
it's time, and it's time to come together and to co-create too. So if
Yeah.
things come up for you, we're always open. We're very open-minded, and our hearts are in this. So if there's anything that you need, please let us know, and we'll work with you on that.
Whew.
Mhm.
I have one amazing daughter, and so I love sharing you with the world.
Mhm.
Love, love, love sharing you with the world.
Mhm.
And we are up to big things, so come with us. We would love to have you.
Yeah. See you
Bye.
next time.